Was the world denied the truth because someone behind closed doors deemed it too dangerous to share? As the internet caught fire over Jungkook's controversial "Make Tokyo Great Again" hat, an accessory that many Korean netizens perceived as politically insensitive and painfully reminiscent of imperialist undertones, another, quieter storm was unfolding behind the scenes. While fans debated and media platforms raced to frame headlines, something critical may have been taken from the narrative: Jin's voice. The question that now echoes louder than the backlash itself is this: did Jin, the calm and protective eldest member of BTS, truly try to speak up for Jungkook? And if he did, who stopped him? Multiple insiders with alleged proximity to BIGHIT, now HYB labels, operations have stirred speculation that Jin had composed a short but powerful message of support for his younger bandmate. The statement, intended for Weverse, was not a carefully crafted PR piece by the company, but rather a deeply personal reflection from someone who knows Jungkook not as an idol or a brand, but as a brother. It was, according to whispers, a plea for understanding, a reminder of humanity amid cancel culture's roaring flames. But that message never surfaced. The silence was louder than any scream, and fans, especially ARMYs, noticed. Why would HYB, a company that has repeatedly leaned on the power of authenticity, choose to suppress Jin's words? Is this a matter of PR control, or something more, something about narrative dominance, strategic silence, and corporate fear? The timeline is chillingly specific. Just hours after the controversial rehearsal photo began circulating online, Jungkook offered a swift and heartfelt apology. Many noted the speed, the vulnerability, the rawness of it all. But what they didn't see was the parallel effort unfolding backstage. Sources claim that Jin, who had just recently resumed public activities after military service, caught wind of the situation and immediately felt the weight Jungkook was bearing. Those closest to the group said Jin didn't hesitate. He wrote out a brief but emotional post, expressing that Jungkook had no intention to hurt anyone, that context mattered, and that mistakes, unintentional as they may be, should not be career-defining. Yet as Jin prepared to hit post, something happened. Multiple staff members allegedly received direct orders from corporate higher-ups. The message must not go out. Not now. Not ever. Is this protection or censorship? It's a brutal irony that a group globally praised for transparency, emotion, and raw storytelling would be caught in a dilemma so steeped in control and curated optics. And as whispers turned into conversations, and now into full-blown questions on Korean forums and international ARMY circles, BIGHIT's silence is beginning to feel deafening. What were they so afraid of? Were they concerned Jin's message would be misunderstood? That it would stir more nationalistic fury? Or was it something more complicated? Fear that Jin's authenticity might outshine the company's scripted handling of the situation? This isn't the first time fans have raised eyebrows over HYB's handling of internal crises, especially when they involve controversial political or cultural interpretations. But it might be the first time they've suspected the company of silencing one of BTS's most trusted voices, especially when that voice was defending the youngest, most vulnerable member. And make no mistake, Jungkook was vulnerable. The phrase on the hat wasn't written by him. It wasn't created to spark chaos. But the symbol, the heavy, painful symbolism of it, was enough to open centuries-old wounds. In South Korea, Japan's imperial history isn't something casually discussed or easily forgotten. To wear a phrase associated with far-right Japanese nationalism, even unknowingly, feels to many like betrayal. And Jungkook, for all his global fame, found himself suddenly stripped of context, forgiveness, and intent. In those darkest hours, what did Jin see? Fans who followed BTS since the beginning know Jin's relationship with Jungkook isn't a manufactured brotherhood for branding. It's real, raw, and layered with nearly a decade of shared blood, sweat, tears, and trust. Jin was the one who kept Jungkook calm when stage fright paralyzed him in early years. Jin was the one who cooked for him, stood beside him, challenged him, comforted him. So when the world turned cold, was Jin not allowed to warm it back up? Several threads on international army forums claim that internal HYB documents may exist. Documents showing proposed drafts of Jin's message with "do not proceed" markers from legal or PR departments. No screenshots have been leaked. No solid proof has emerged. And yet, the persistent silence from Jin, known for being the first to crack a joke or speak his heart, is beginning to feel more like an answer than a question. Could it be that the silence wasn't his choice? And if so, what does that say about the environment BTS must now work in? This situation has raised new concerns about the dynamics between HYB and the individual voices of BTS members. As much as the company celebrates individuality in public, the reality behind closed doors may be far more calculated. For fans who have stood by the members through scandals, injuries, military enlistments, and more, the possibility that Jin was silenced is more than unsettling. It's heartbreaking. There's also a quiet rebellion building. Across social media platforms, hashtags like #LetJinSpeak and #ProtectJungkook began trending briefly after international fans caught wind of the rumors. Petitions circulated demanding transparency from HYB, and digital artists began sharing imagined versions of Jin's message, often accompanied by stylized visuals of him shielding Jungkook in metaphorical storms. What would that real message have sounded like? Perhaps something like, "To those who feel hurt, please know Jungkook did not intend to cause pain. He is learning. We all are. Please let's hold space for grace." But we may never know. The scandal over the hat is already fading in mainstream headlines, replaced by the next celebrity misstep or trending drama. But the wound it left inside BTS, and perhaps inside Jin, may linger far longer, especially if his silence was enforced, not chosen. Is this the future of BTS communication, a dance between authenticity and approval? And what does this mean for the group's identity moving forward? In an age where public figures are punished not only for their actions but for their perceived symbolism, the role of those closest to them becomes even more vital. Jin, in his years of steadfast leadership and quiet love, has always been a shield. What happens when even a shield is taken away? Was this about safety or control? Did BIGHIT fear outrage? Or did they fear Jin's truth would unravel their script? Fans may never get an official answer. But one thing is certain. The next time Jin speaks, the world will be listening, not just for his voice, but for everything he wasn't allowed to say this time. And maybe, just maybe, silence will become the loudest protest of all. What happens when the one person you expect to speak doesn't? The world has known BTS for more than a decade now, not just as musicians, but as a symbol of vulnerability, truth, and brotherhood. So when the firestorm around Jungkook's had ignited across Korean media platforms, armies instinctively waited for a voice of calm, a voice that often came from Jin. Yet in this most critical moment, the silence that followed felt less like peace and more like a scream trapped behind corporate glass. And now, days after the apology, after the debates, after the news cycle moves on, one question refuses to go away. Was Jin silenced by the very company that built its empire on his voice? The moment that never happened. According to multiple unconfirmed sources and insider whispers, Jin had every intention of speaking. Not as an idol, not as a company puppet, but as a hyung, a brother, a witness to Jungkook's character. It's said that he drafted a personal message, one not reviewed by the public relations department, one not shaped by legal counsel. It wasn't written in legalese or PR jargon. It was human. But BIGHIT didn't want human. They wanted silence. The reasoning? Company optics. Strategic neutrality. Fear of escalating tensions. By stepping in and blocking Jin's statement, HYB may have believed they were protecting the group's global reputation. But what they might have done instead is create an even deeper rupture. One between the artist and his voice. One between BTS and their fans. And perhaps most painfully, one between Jin and Jungkook. The private conversations we'll never hear. There are rumors, fleeting, elusive, emotionally loaded, that Jin was heartbroken when his statement was suppressed. Not because he wanted attention, not because he wanted credit, but because he wanted to shoulder the weight of this controversy alongside Jungkook. Because he knew what it meant to carry global scrutiny, to be dissected, analyzed, vilified for something misunderstood. ARMY speculate that the two shared a quiet meeting the day after Jungkook's apology. A late night, phones off, just two brothers sitting together in silence. Not fixing the world, just holding space for the pain it caused. And maybe in that moment, Jin said everything he needed to say. Not to the world, but to Jungkook. But that still doesn't answer what the rest of us are now asking. Why didn't HYBE let Jin protect him in public? The corporate cage. HYBE's calculated silence. HYBE has, on several occasions, released statements praising the emotional intelligence of BTS members. They've celebrated RM's reflective prose, Jimin's tears, Suga's brutal honesty, and V's artistic sensitivity. And Jin? He's long been the group's emotional backbone, wise, patient, and sometimes disarmingly blunt. But this time, he wasn't allowed to speak. This raises dangerous questions about corporate control and selective expression. How much freedom do BTS members actually have when controversy strikes? Are they only permitted to be authentic when it aligns with the company's PR strategy? BIGHIT's silence during the backlash, aside from facilitating Jungkook's apology, was deafening. No context, no further clarity, no elaboration on whether Jungkook understood the history behind the slogan or not. And more importantly, no public defense. By silencing Jin, HYBE may have missed a powerful moment of damage control. Not the sterile kind, but the human kind. Imagine the headlines. Jin defends Jungkook with heartfelt message. He's my brother before anything else. Jin stands by Jungkook amid hat backlash. We must see the heart, not just the hat. Instead, what fans got was an apology wrapped in fear and a silence that felt anything but strategic. The emotional fallout. What armies are saying. Armies are not just fans. They are readers of body language, analysts of emotion, and seekers of truth beneath layers of corporate polish. And they saw something was off. Many pointed to Jin's demeanor in recent behind-the-scenes content. Though professional as always, his eyes lacked their usual sparkle. Some believe his choice to remain out of social media for days wasn't coincidence, but quiet protest. Reddit threads, Twitter/X posts, and even Wever's comments exploded with theories and heartbreak. If Jin wasn't allowed to speak, then HYBE has forgotten who made BTS what it is. I can feel his frustration. The man who always speaks his heart suddenly vanished when Jungkook needed him most. Let Jin protect Jungkook. This is not just PR, it's love. And love doesn't need approval. The bigger picture, is this the beginning of a new BTS era or the end of an old one? Jin's forced silence is not just a single event. It could represent the start of a power shift, where BTS, returning from military service, faces a different HYBE than the one they left. One more corporate, one more controlled, one less emotional. And if this continues, fans fear the essence of BTS, the rawness, the unity, the family, may be slowly eroded in favor of marketable perfection. Jungkook's controversy could have been a teaching moment, a space for compassion, for education, for human complexity. Jin could have turned the narrative around, not through defense, but through understanding. Instead, fans were left with sterile silence and unanswered questions. The final blow, the missing message that could have changed everything. What if Jin's message had been posted? Would Korean media have seen a different side to the scandal? Would Jungkook have been protected by the weight of his brother's sincerity? Would international fans have seen a beacon of hope in the middle of cancel culture storm? Here's what fans imagine that missing message might have been. As someone who's watched Jungkook grow, I know the heart he carries. He did not wear that hat to hurt anyone. He's learning like all of us. Please remember, before you judge him for a symbol, that he is still a human being with deep love for all cultures, including ours. Let's choose understanding, not destruction. But we'll never know. Because someone somewhere in the ranks of HYBE decided we weren't ready to hear it. And maybe that's the real tragedy. The silence that fell over the BTS fandom in the days following Jungkook's apology wasn't just the usual calm after a social media storm. It was heavy, hollow, and strangely unsettling. And for many, it wasn't Jungkook's swift remorse or even the intensity of the backlash that hurt the most. It was the eerie absence of Jin. Not in photos, not in appearances, but in words. In the space where his voice should have been. In the exact moment when the eldest brother was expected to stand tall and say what so many believed in their hearts, that Jungkook didn't deserve this. What's more disturbing than an idol's mistake is the machinery that surrounds them when things fall apart. The mechanisms that dictate who can speak, how they must sound, and when it's best to remain quiet, even if that silence goes against every instinct of love, protection, and family. And for Jin, those instincts have always defined him. He's not the type to ignore pain. He's not the kind to hide when someone he loves is being torn apart. The whispers began subtly. Armies noticed Jin's absence from wherever during the most chaotic days. He had just returned from military service, yet offered no public statement on the controversy consuming the youngest member of their group. It felt unnatural. Jin is the one who breaks the tension with a joke, the one who says what others are too scared to admit. But this time, there was nothing. No comfort. No clarification. Not even a faint attempt to let the world know that Jungkook was not alone. Behind the curtain, things were different. Insiders, anonymous yet familiar with HYB's decision-making process, hinted at a conflict. A message written, read, reviewed, rejected. It wasn't vulgar. It wasn't political. It was, according to those who allegedly saw it, the emotional words of a brother trying to protect his dancing. But HYB, deeply aware of the razor-sharp national discourse surrounding historical trauma and Japanese far-right symbolism, didn't want more attention. They wanted control. And so, they buried his words. The implications of that silence cut deeper than many realize. For Jungkook, the apology was not the hardest part. He is no stranger to criticism, nor is he oblivious to how quickly love turns to hate in the digital age. But the absence of Jin's voice, his protector, his anchor, was something he couldn't apologize away. Behind closed doors, the two reportedly spoke often, met in quiet corners of their shared dorm or studio, discussing the weight of the hat, the misunderstanding, the centuries-old pain it unknowingly triggered. Jin offered support, not from a place of damage control, but from the raw, gentle place of love that only he knows how to offer. But all of it stayed private. It had to. Jin had wanted to speak publicly. His words were composed with care, sources said. No defense of imperialism, no attack on critics. Just a plea. A reminder that Jungkook had no ill intentions, that sometimes ignorance, not malice, is what creates hurt. That learning and unlearning are part of being human. That BTS, the very group that once preached love myself, should not be silenced when they try to offer context and comfort. But the company disagreed. They feared another headline, another flame, so they let Jungkook burn. The silence didn't go unnoticed. Not by ARMY, not by other celebrities, and certainly not by members of BTS. Taeyong posted cryptic lyrics on his Instagram story, ones that fans interpreted as frustration with the situation. Yoongi went offline entirely for days. Jimin liked a fan post that said, "Real brothers speak," even when told not to. Even Namjoon, the group's eloquent leader, seemed visibly torn in a short V-Live appearance, where he spoke about the need for compassion in a world that's forgotten what grace means. But Jin remained quiet, because he had no choice. This wasn't just about a hat. It was about power, about the clash between authenticity and agenda, about a company that once vowed to support their artists' voices now reportedly choosing to manage them like assets. BTS is no longer just 7 boys from a small agency. They are an empire, and empires are run with rules, not feelings. Still, armies fought back the only way they knew how. Hashtags like #LetJin and #BIGHIT Silence Jin began to trend. Fan art circulated of Jin wrapping Jungkook in a shield of his arms, standing between him and the digital mob. Thousands wrote imagined versions of the message they believed Jin would have posted. Emotional, soft, real. They didn't need it to be official. They needed to feel that love existed in the darkness. Speculation grew louder. Had this happened before? Were there other moments where members were told to stay quiet to protect the brand? Fans began dissecting past controversies with new eyes. Moments when apologies seemed too scripted, when videos looked overly staged, when the boys' expressions didn't match their words. Perhaps Jin's forced silence was not an isolated event, but a glimpse into a system far more controlled than the public ever imagined. And yet, even in the shadows, the truth finds a way to bleed through. At a recent fan signing event, Jin was caught on a hot mic whispering to Jungkook, "No one gets to define you but you." It wasn't a statement for the press. It wasn't an Instagram caption. It was a brother's rebellion, quiet, defiant, and honest. In that moment, fans broke down, because they knew Jin didn't need a press release to show his heart. He never has. But the question remains, why does he have to fight so hard just to speak? HYBE's silence on this matter has only confirmed suspicions. No denial of censorship. No statement addressing the speculation. No clarity about what happened behind the scenes. Just business as usual. Comebacks. Merchandise. PR. But fans have memories. And wounds. And this one cuts differently. The tragedy of it all is not just the controversy itself, but the lost opportunity to heal. If Jin had spoken, if his message had been allowed to live in the public eye, perhaps the storm would have passed faster. Perhaps empathy would have replaced outrage. Perhaps Jungkook would have been reminded, not just privately but publicly, that he is not alone. Instead, the world watched in real time as a brother's love was muzzled, as corporate fear outweighed personal truth, as one of the most powerful voices in K-pop was forced to be quiet when it mattered most. But maybe that silence is its own kind of protest. Maybe Jin's refusal to play the game, to post hollow words crafted by someone else, is the most powerful act of all. Maybe the look he gave Jungkook on stage the other night, filled with pride, sorrow, and unspoken protection, was more honest than any caption ever could be. Still,